What up, everybody? It's Martin So welcome to another edition of Peak Your Mind. In today's episode, we're talking about how to overcome self-sabotage. And I'm stoked to bring you this episode because last week I got to sit down with Mel Houghton, an international world record holder, Olympic medalist, international speaker, author, an elite performance coach, and she's even done cover modeling and stuff like that. But an absolutely inspiring human being with a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share, and just a cool person. And so the reason I thought this would be relevant and important to bring for myself and for you guys is because as we near, as we enter into my favorite time of the year, one of my favorite times of the year, Christmas time, winter time, we tend to reflect and look back on the year and how we've grown and how we've improved and what we've accomplished and what the goals we set and what we haven't accomplished. And I think with a lot of goals, I know I've said, I'm sure you have too, where you know the why and you know the how and you actually start taking steps towards it, but then all of a sudden, you, for some freak reason, it just doesn't work out. You pull back or you're distracted by other things or you just sabotage yourself. And how do you overcome that? What causes that and how do you overcome that? So Mel broke down some steps that we can take on how to overcome self-sabotage and truly how to live a fulfilling and joyful life. So I hope you enjoy the video and the interview with her. And after you watch the video, just comment below. Let me know what was your favorite nugget or takeaway from the interview. Cool. So what I'd love to start with is maybe if you could share some of your backstory for some people who don't know you, because I know that you're ranked top 10 in the world by 16. You're a 3-time world champion medalist for swimming, national Australian record holder, a champion fitness and cover model, and then you do international speaking, author, publisher, elite performance coach, and entrepreneur. You're just really inspiring and a kick-ass chick, and I love that. But I also know that the journey hasn't always been super easy for you. I know you faced a lot of challenges and stuff. So what I want to know is what got you into swimming in the first place? What made you passionate about that? And then how did you overcome the challenges, the emotional and mental challenges that showed up as you were pursuing that?
Oh, great question. Thank you. Yeah. I remember, I think I was very lucky. I had a beautiful gift from my parents, and they always said, no matter what you want to do, they'd always do whatever it took. They'd find a way to make it happen. And that philosophy right there I've taken into everything that I've done.
Yeah.
So I've always been blessed that I know that for a heart and mind committed to achieving something, there is a way.
Yeah.
So it's been a beautiful blessing that I got. And also, so when I was 7 years old, it was 1992, so that gives away my age, but I was watching Kieran Perkins, who's Australian. He was a 1,500 metre freestyle swimmer.
Yeah.
He won the Olympic gold medal in the Barcelona 1992 Olympics, and it was the first thing that I remember just saying, I want to do that. Yeah. That's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And it was just pretty much a childhood dream that I had, and then, in Australia, pretty much you learn to swim, and it was just you keep going. And so I knew when I was 7 years old what I wanted to do. So it was just a matter of, doing it. It didn't prove to be the easiest of journeys, and so to say the least. And I had a lot of mental and emotional issues as a teenager growing up. It's a very confusing time for most of us anyway. And then, being an Australian champion by 13, ranked top 10 in the world at 16, making my first Australian team at 15.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So, breaking my first Australian team, it kind of adds another dynamic to the mix, which can be quite a challenging time for people at the best. So I had a lot of issues and things like that. The main reason for me was knowing that swimming was something that I loved. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as long as I loved it, there was always a way to keep going, right? And I think that's a big clue for everyone. No matter what you're doing in your life, you got to love it because it's it's a big clue. But I lost a lot of direction and reason why I was doing it, and I got pretty depressed. Yeah. Had a lot of issues and ended up retiring at 20 years old. Yeah. Well earlier than I probably should have, but it was the best decision I could have made at the time because I really wasn't happy. Yeah. A sport I'd started absolutely loving, I'd lost the love for. So you've got to, I had to go and I did a big spiritual evolution journey. Yeah. I actually went traveling, came to North America, visited California. Yeah. Yeah, so I did. I was a big fan of Michael Jackson
Yeah.
growing up. I loved him. I thought he was a massive source of inspiration for me.
Totally. Yeah.
So I did a trip out to like Crazyland style.
Uh-huh.
His visit his Netherland ranch and just it was kind of like a soul searching journey.
That's
And
so cool. So you just came from Australia and just explored an adventure, and that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah. And a soul
yeah,
searching journey. Yeah.
absolutely. Because you know, it's kind of like you lose your reason for why you do what you do, and
Yeah.
life feels a little bit lackluster.
Mm.
So for me, I did that journey and found a higher calling, and used just basically my intuition
Yeah.
to guide me where to go and all of those kind of things. It was really, really cool, and
That is really cool. Yeah.
I learned a truckload on that journey, and then discovered that swimming, as I've come from swimming training, my hairs are wet, but something
Yeah.
something that I love, and there's still something that's in my heart that I know I want to achieve, so I keep going with it.
Mm.
But yeah, the journey, you always got to come back to what you love, and
Yeah.
just recognizing though sometimes it doesn't make it peaches and cream all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Totally.
yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think with anything that you are pursuing that is a dream or is a love for you, it's never going to be easy the whole way. There are going to be those challenges that test you. But I'm actually curious because on that soul searching journey, I didn't realize that you had done that. What were some of the biggest, I guess, insights and lessons you did? Because I think, and also another thing, I think something that I've been trying to work on more lately is trusting my gut and tapping into that intuitive voice and really listening for it. So I'm curious about that too. If you could share some insights from your spiritual journey, and how do you listen and trust your intuition and know that that's what's guiding you?
Oh, absolutely. Good question. It's the reason why I live in Ireland now.
Yeah.
It calls me. I do what it tells me to do now,
Yeah.
and I just trust it. So that's why I'm in Ireland.
Yeah.
So some of the things I learned, was obviously I had to discover what it meant to be successful. For me, swimming was about the Olympic gold medal, and if I wasn't an Olympic gold medalist, I was nothing. That was kind of the attitude I had towards myself. Very polarized, very negative towards who I was. So discovering what it meant to feel successful in a world that is full of turbulence and distraction and, all of these, it's very externalized, the Western world that we have.
Totally. Yeah.
While there is value in that, it's only half of the equation.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to really rediscover that inner side and that inner journey. And so it just became back to what intuition really is trusting yourself. There's a part of you that already knows what you're here to do on the planet. There's a part of you which knows. I mean, you might have the experience, I know I've had it, where I've had a gut feel about something.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's just something not right here, and I've done it anyway, and it hasn't worked out. I'm like, I should trust that.
Yeah, so, totally. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. There's times when I don't do it. And so I found it very effective in terms of, guiding me where I'm meant to be on the planet. Also very effective in business because it helped me make some great decisions in terms of, where we focus in the business, who I bring on board, who I work with, what leads to follow up. Trusting my intuition on that one as well is very cool.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I think that's sort of it in a nutshell. It was very much the way I developed intuition was we teach a process. I do teach a process which connects you to higher self.
Yeah.
It's frequency. Most people live out their lives in a very low frequency.
Yeah, yeah.
Fear-based frequency, things like that. Everything ultimately is energy. And if you're around people who complain all the time, you're seeing all the devastation on the news, your vibrational level is going to be quite low.
Yeah.
So you can't hear the guidance because the guidance from here is a higher vibration.
Interesting.
So basically what we do in this workshop is we get them, it's just using your voice, or you use your voice to connect to a higher vibration.
Okay.
Then you ask a question. So we teach them starting off with a yes and a no, because that's easy.
Yeah.
Your body will give you a sign what is yes, your body will give you a sign what is no.
Interesting.
And you just and then I take people, get them off on a lunch break and get them to make intuitive decisions about where they go and what they eat, and the insights that people get is absolutely amazing.
That is so cool.
Blows them out of the water.
Yeah.
So it's so kind of like learning to connect to that higher frequency.
Yeah, that's really interesting too, because just one example is I've as I've tried to tap into that, I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he said the same thing. Is sometimes the way to tap into it is to not trust it, like feel that gut feeling, and then go against it, and then realize, oh, I totally should have followed it. And you're right about the lower frequency stuff. I really focus on avoiding people who are more negative or complaining or bring it down, and I never ever watch the news. I mean, I stay up to date with current events, but I don't watch the negative stuff that it's mostly fear based. If it leads, it bleeds, or if it bleeds, it leads, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's interesting. Another thing I'm curious about that you mentioned is how do you define success? Because you said you had to redefine it. I'm sure being an Olympian and being a top swimmer, you have to have that all or nothing mentality. But then redefining it for yourself, what was that new definition of success for you?
Oh, great. Thank you. One thing I sort of say, I've always gone that success isn't success unless it is accepted as reality in your own heart and mind. If it looks successful to the world, but it doesn't feel like success in your heart, it's not success at all, because it's an outer game and it's an inner game. What it means for me personally is expending myself in a good cause. It's knowing that because I lived, at least one other person's life has, been improved. Every single person creates a ripple effect. Think about so I'm always grateful for every single person that I have the opportunity to make a difference with, and share my gifts and things. So success is making a difference in someone else's life. Success is knowing what I'm truly capable of and expressing that. So for me, success in my swimming journey is about getting to the end of 2016, which is the end of the next Olympics, irrespective of what the outcome is. You aim for the gold, so the target's Olympic gold. Whether I get there or not, the goal is for me to know that at the end of it, I did the best that I could. And honestly say that, I'm happy.
I love that. I love that. That's an amazing definition. I didn't know that you were going to be competing in 2016. That's your goal, to be competing?
Rio Olympic Games. Yep.
Wow. I'll be supporting you then. I'll be cheering you on. That's incredible. Yeah. That's great. Another thing that I did want to ask you about is I know you talk a lot when you do international speaking and stuff on the topic of self-sabotage and how to overcome that, because I think that I've experienced that, and a lot of people struggle with that, and they just don't know what it is inside them. Maybe it is that inner game of what is causing that self-sabotage.
Oh, cool. Great question. 3 things. I think there's 3 things that kind of cover it off. Number one is obviously the biggest one for people is fear, and people have fear of all different sorts of things. So people got fear of failure, people got fear of success, fear of rejection, fear of losing love, fear of illness, fear of losing security. You name it, people got fears. Susan Jeffers, in her book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, she has a definition, and it is that at the foundational level of all our fears is the fear that we cannot handle what may come our way if we take an action. It's just that we don't trust ourselves enough to be able to handle the outcome. That is why we have the fear. So the best way to actually let go of fear is to do it anyway. So it's a great book, highly recommend it. And the other thing about that one specifically is the brain's number one role is identity coherence. Specifically at a foundational level, what you learn to survive between the ages of 0 to 3 forms the basis of all future survival. So you will unconsciously keep creating experiences that represent the things that you learned to survive as a kid. So, for example, someone survives 0 to 3 with, getting beat over the head with a hammer or being burnt with cigarettes. At a foundational level, all of this part of the brain, the reptilian brain, it cares about, am I breathing? Yes.
Okay.
I'm breathing. I'm good. So because it learned to survive being hit over the head or burnt with cigarettes, it codes that as survivable, therefore safe. Therefore, keep creating painful experiences so that it continues to survive it over and over and over again.
Interesting.
So then the fear that comes out is when we're stepping outside of the realm of what we know. But recognizing that and understanding that, we can just feel the fear and take the action anyway. And the key to remove the fear when we're doing that, breathe. If you're doing something and you're feeling, breathe. It codes it in at your unconscious level that it's survivable and therefore safe.
Interesting. Because you get out of that fight or flight response and more into centeredness. Interesting. Yeah.
Because all it cares about is that you're breathing. So if you're breathing, it's happy.
Wow. Okay. So that's how you communicate to your reptilian brain that it is survivable and that you're okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
My clients that sort of talk about having an experience of, I can feel them all of a sudden stop breathing. I'm like, take a deep breath. Okay, and and proceed. So that's usually enough, and it's great strategy as well to get you present. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two is thought patterns. They're just habitual ways of thinking. You can train your mind to think any way that you want, and it's just it becomes a habit, like what you do with eating habits, or what you do with exercise habits, or business habits, or getting things done or not getting things done. Thought habits are the same thing. So it just might be a negative conditioning of thought of you automatically say certain things because it's habitualized.
Yeah.
But you can actually have the power to change it in all moments. Most people let their minds run them as opposed to realizing that they're actually the ones that run their mind.
Yeah.
So presence, meditation, observing thoughts rather than being involved in the day-to-day drama helps you identify whether things are serving you or not serving you.
Interesting. So that's what it is instead of just having it be on autopilot, observing your thoughts and say, is it serving me or is it not? And if it's not, what do? You just consciously focus on something that does serve you?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Now, here is a problem that I see far too often, and it frustrates me in personal development.
Yeah.
And often they say when a negative thought comes up, as an example, someone will say, have you hold your hand out, and they go, stop it. And then you think about something positive. They're missing a step. And this is where people get wrong, is because that's encoding that old pattern was bad. So it's creating resistance to what is. And as we know, resistance fuels resistance, or what we resist will persist.
Right. Interesting.
So the way to create lasting transformation, I know this because I had to deal with my own head stuff going on when I was a swimmer, was the way to create lasting transformation, because I used to be the most negative person that I knew. Life, everything kept happening to me. I was a big victim, and I used to think really negatively.
I used to be the same exact way. Yeah.
So it's cool that you get that. So what I did was then you notice the thought. So you ask the question, is this serving me? Is this not serving me? It's not serving me. Okay. Say okay to it. Meaning that it doesn't mean that you accept it and allow it to be okay, but you say, okay, that is there.
Yeah.
And you allow it to be there for a minute. Probably like just a split second.
Yeah.
And then you go, what am I going to choose to focus on now? Just giving it that little bit of space for it to be okay. It takes that split second, but it actually starts to unwind some of that negative conditioning.
Interesting.
As opposed to being in resistance to it.
Yeah.
Build resistance in your system, and it doesn't actually lastingly transform where that comes from. So we teach this as well. It's number one, identify it's there. Number two, accept or embrace. Number three, transcend and choose a new course of action or choose a new way to think.
Okay.
So that solves that one.
Yeah.
It's number two.
Okay, number two, yeah. Under that, thoughts, yeah.
Yep. So negative habits of thinking. Create the space between identifying what is and allowing what you choose to focus on next.
Yeah.
That's be the thing that actually completely transforms a problem. And it's this much, it's half a second maximum that makes all the difference. It's pretty cool.
Interesting. Wow.
Yes. It's pretty cool.
Very cool.
So there's that. And number three is unconscious saboteur patterns. So in alignment with that reptilian brain thing, what we learn to survive between the ages of 0 to 3, it will form the conditions or the lens of everything that we see.
Yeah, totally.
There's 6 foundational beliefs that are actually formed for all human beings between the ages of 0 to 3. And if any one of those are challenged or compromised or not stabilized effectively in the system, you'll experience challenges in that area for life unless you know how to go back and change them.
Wow.
There's several, it's like identity level coding, who I am, things that are true about me and therefore true about the world.
Yeah. And
there's also inherited DNA, but also inherited consciousness from the family system.
Yeah, I can see that.
Usually they call it, genetics, but also there's an inherited consciousness that we get.
Yeah, I believe that.
What happens is kids, in hope of resolving family pain, play out the fate of former generations just to say I love you to former generations. Now this is, I could go and talk for 2 hours about this.
Yeah, I feel like we could talk forever. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
But it's really interesting, and most people find that where this one comes in, this number 3, it's events that seem like they're seemingly outside of your control. You know, negative habits, you might procrastinate, or fear, you might recognize your fear and that will stop you from taking action. Whereas this can sometimes be pretty sneaky and kind of woo-woo and create situations that are seemingly outside of your control.
Wow.
But that's because your brain can only filter through what you've learned or discovered or inherited.
Yeah.
So this is where you need a coach.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So this is something that you teach at either your trainings or you do personal coaching with?
So we this is part of our coaching. Now, if we do this work with people and they don't sort out their mind stuff, they don't sort out dealing with fear and overcoming it, then it still's not successful. It is the missing piece. If you got the other 2 handled and you're still not getting the results you want, then you need to look at this stuff, because it can be unconsciously creating circumstances just to stay in rapport with what you learned is true about who you are as a little kid and from your family.
Yeah.
So it can be the difference maker, but it's also not the only solution. Is that you got to look at your attitude, your mindset, and also handling fear. Because anytime you do something you haven't done before, there's going to be fear.
Yeah, that's just part of the process. Yeah. So that's interesting. So if the first 2, if you handle the fear and you handle the habitual thought patterns, if those 2 don't fix the problem, then it's got to be the unconscious saboteur patterns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was it? Was there a time in your life when you had those like unconscious saboteur patterns in yourself, or an example of your own story?
Oh yeah. For me, you know, in our family background, it's like the conditions. It's unconscious rules in the family system that state. For example, one is the unconscious rules. They're not explicitly stated, although in some families they are. Is that you will not have a better experience of me. Of yourself than I have an experience of me. You will not have a better experience of life than I do. So, for example, for a child to earn more than their father at an unconscious level, it's disrespectful.
Interesting. Wow.
So if someone wants to earn more, and like, for example, in my family, everyone's always been employed, so I run my own business. So, of course, I had a lot of stuff. I have my own coach to help through all that stuff. Because to still be okay to have a very successful business and still stay in rapport with my family and know that I'm not being disrespectful to my father to do that.
Wow.
So that's one way it kind of happens. In swimming, I think it was leading into the Commonwealth Games team what was it? 2002, trying to remember the year. It was a long time ago. I got sick just before the Nationals and conveniently missed out on the team. Same thing happened for Olympic Games. I would get sick leading into an international competition that would get in the way of me swimming my best. So it was this thing around international competition. So of course I've handled that now, and now I have the experience of, unconsciously how it would show up is at the end of my race I would seize up. So the muscles unconsciously would just seize up, knowing that, oh, hang on a second, I'm about to do very well, and that's not
really
the case.
Wow, so it would just take over. Wow.
Yep. And then every now and again, my system would forget to do that, and I'd get a great result. So, for example, when I was ranked top 10 in the world. It was when the pressure was off, I could swim really well. If the pressure was on, unconsciously, I'd seize up at the end of the races because that wasn't okay in the system. So I've gotten that handled pretty much now. So we'll see how that makes a difference in Rio.
Yeah, great, awesome. That's exciting. I'm excited for you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I feel like we could honestly talk for so long, but just in the interest of time to keep this somewhat brief, I would love to know, what do you think what brings people true fulfillment and true happiness in life, regardless of what they're doing? What do you think those 2 things are? How do people achieve those 2 things, in your opinion?
Oh, true fulfillment and true happiness. I mean, one of my biggest passions in life is about spirituality, which is, in my definition of it, is just truth and love. That's all it is. It's rediscovering the truth of who you are and living out a life that's authentically true to yourself. So for me, is to rediscover the truth of who you are, and it's not this. It's not this physical thing. there's so many people out there that are still obsessed with how this looks, and you know, it makes them better or worse, good or bad. But really, ultimately, there is a part of us that existed before we came here, and a part of us that will continue to exist after we go. Yeah. And that part is the part of us that is truly beautiful.
Totally. I agree.
So to remember, getting back to who it is that we truly are and live from the heart, that is what I find part of it is. Spiritual growth, absolutely. The part of us that was always here and will continue to be here. All it cares about is that we grow spiritually. That we plant seeds. And as long as we do that, it's happy.
Yeah.
The other side of it.
I love that.
I love that. Well, like, it's kind of the Aussie me. Can't help it. Give me the thumbs up. Part of it is contributing beyond the self. One thing that really helped me come through a lot of the issues that I had was learning to give and give beyond myself, because contribution is one of the greatest joys that you can have, to know that you make a difference in someone else's life. That's true fulfillment.
Totally. Yeah.
And happiness, I think, has got a lot to do with gratitude. Because happiness is found on the journey. It's never found in the destination.
Right.
For example, if you think that having more money will make you happy, think again.
Yeah.
If you think that achieving something that you don't already have will make you happy, no. Happiness is found on the journey. Often I've found money just makes you more of what you are. So if you're beautiful and you're generous, money will make you more beautiful and more generous.
Interesting. So it just amplifies it. What's already in you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're depressed and you want to make more money because you think it's going to make you happier, what the process of making more money is just going to do is it's just going to make you more depressed.
Yeah. Interesting.
So happiness is found on the journey. Find a way to be happy with what you have now. Keep looking for something, you know, use your contribution, use your gifts and services to, you know, continue to move forward, set goals, progress.
Yeah.
And I think happiness is a choice ultimately. You can choose to enjoy where you are or choose not to.
Yeah,
so.
I completely agree. I love it. I feel like we're totally on the same page and how we think and stuff. So I love that you're on and you're sharing this stuff. Yeah. Cool. So just to wrap it up, if someone wants to know more about you or your training that you do or your personal coaching, where can they go to find you and find more of your material?
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah. Best place to go is to head to our website. It's www.totaltransformationtraining.com.
Yeah.
Again, so www.totaltransformationtraining.com, and what they can do is they can book in for one of our Get It Sorted sessions. Now, what we're really looking for in the Get It Sorted session is we have a look for that unconscious saboteur stuff. So we usually we do help people a lot with career and business, and we get some great results in that. Where we really go to work is making sure their unconscious programming supports the success that they seek. We also do the mindset stuff and getting them in action. Main thing is there. So if you know, for example, someone's out there, you know that you've got mindset stuff, you've been working your mindset, you've been taking action, you're not getting results, come and have a chat to us. We'll book you in for a session and see if some of that stuff might be in the way. And if it is, we'll just identify a good treatment plan to get you in rock and action and get the results you want. So
perfect. I love it. Awesome. Mel, you're amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insight and your wisdom and your heart. I know it's going to help a lot of people, and I feel like we're kindred spirits here that are focused on contributing and loving and growing. So you're amazing, and we'll be rooting for you in 2016. But hopefully, I'll have you back on before then, because that would be awesome.
Thank you, and can I just say, kudos, man! I love what you're doing at Rocks.
Dude,
so
thank you. Yeah,
keep going because you're doing awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, kudos. 2 thumbs up. I love it.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Mel, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What is the single most important thing you need to be successful at anything? That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode of Peak Your Mind. Keep watching.